Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to my live stream. Welcome to my live stream. My name is Andre Lefevre. Andre Lefevre, independent journalist, citizen journalist. I don't get paid for this. I do this because I'm compelled to do it and because it is my hobby. We are going to talk about the Sun Spot Observatory today, and I have a treat for us today. I have with me, and let me make sure it works, Mr. David Green from Sydney, Australia, who is an independent investigator into the truth. Am I saying that correctly, David?
Yes, Andre, I think that pretty much describes it.
Okay. Well, earlier today, I was in contact with FBI spokesman from Albuquerque, and he emailed me a search warrant for the Sunspot Observatory, and it's an interesting it's an interesting reading. Let's see if I can bring this up. Hold on one second. Let's see here. Here it is. I just put it on the screen. Couple of things I noticed. If you don't mind, David, I'll go through a couple of things, and you're welcome to chime in
Sure.
anytime you like. Uh, I am. If you have it with you, if you don't, that's fine. I'm on the page 3, attachment B. Any and all evidence in violation of possession of child pornography under there's law is cited. Receipt and distribution of child pornography that Joshua Cope had access to, including but not limited to. And it lists all the stuff that they are allowed to search. Now, Joshua Cope apparently was a janitor. He was described later in this affidavit. Um, let me just see if I kept this. Let me just go through it, and it'll become a highlight. And I'm on page 19. On July 27, 2018, Special Agent Owen Pena was conducting an online investigation examining the records contained in Child Protection System (CPS) database, specifically focusing on IP addresses believed to be in New Mexico, in offering to participate in distribution of files containing child sexual exploitation. So, according to this affidavit, FBI accidentally came across what was this gentleman's name? Joshua Cope. On page 20, Special Agent Pena then queried the maxmind.com for the above 3 IP addresses and noted that all 3 addresses were registered to the National Solar Observatory through Talarosa Communications. Special Agent Pena contacted Talarosa Communications and learned that his block of IP addresses belongs only to the National Solar Observatory. On July 31st, 2018, Special Agent Pena contacted John Doherty and advised him, in fact, that multiple files contain child pornography. I'm not going to read. So that's how they came across the fact that somebody, according to this document, was distributing child pornography from that observatory. I'm going to spare all the details, but here's on page 25, number 49. Joshua Cope began providing janitorial services at the observatory approximately 1 year ago. He generally arrived to clean approximately 2 p.m. and stayed for a couple of hours. In numerous occasions, when the chief of observatory departed for the day, at approximately 1 p.m., Cope had offered to lock the facility after he departed. Now, they're referring constantly to somebody who they call chief observer without naming that particular person. So that's kind of interesting. After all the investigation happened, the FBI seized Joshua Cope's laptop, and according to this affidavit, I'm just paraphrasing, I don't want to read the volumes, he became agitated, and a man, let's see, at some point, one of the vice presidents, and let me just get his name here. Vice President, let's see here, what was his name? Vice President, Valen Schnader, Aura's Vice President for Operations, Chief of Staff. According to this affidavit, without any authority from FBI, he let me just bring this back. He closed the observatory. So, and I think it says here someplace, based on the totality of circumstances, Mr. Schneider, in conjunction with the NSO and NSF, and without advice from the FBI, made an independent decision to close facility and evacuate the premises. He also terminated the cleaning contract for the facility. All right, I am done with this. I hope it wasn't too boring, but any comments of what we just heard?
Yeah, I think that it was very many people working at the observatory, so they had worked out a laptop in other people's offices, and someone there had noticed this laptop just sitting in someone's office where it shouldn't be, and at first they weren't sure if it was university students, but then they realised it was only this possible person, and I think that's how they came to that conclusion it was him, and they investigated it. But I'm a little bit concerned about that it seemed to take so long to undertake all of this. If you look at the search warrant, I think it's dated the 10th of September.
Let me take a look. It's dated 10th of September, that's correct.
Now, they came to the premises on the 6th of September.
That's true.
So I'm not sure why it would have taken them 4 days to obtain the search warrant to search his premises. I would have thought that that would have been something a little bit quicker than that.
Well, I'll tell you another thing that struck me, and I have been a police officer in my youth for a few years, for a few years, and when you have a single perpetrator with no conspiracy, no gang affiliations, even though the person is acting erratically, just 2 law enforcement officers usually are enough to contain somebody like that. Now, we're talking about the full evacuation of, I don't know totally how many people. We're talking about, what, about a dozen at least, maybe more so. The local post office closed down the facility. And really, I don't know, you take it from here.
There were a few residents as well, so yeah, I think it was probably around a dozen, probably between a dozen and 20 people evacuated. For a child pornography, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me either.
Remember the sheriff advised of child pornography.
Can you repeat that again? You cut out just for a couple of seconds.
Evacuating 20 people for a child pornography case seems a bit extreme, and it seems a little bit unusual.
I agree with you.
Benny House was not involved at all, and I know from looking up his history, in April 2018 he was involved in with child pornography.
Can you say that again? Again, our connection, God, I wish it was better. But, you cut out again. Could you say that again?
Sydney, and yeah, we're not particularly good overseas. We're okay locally, but not particularly good overseas. Sheriff Benny House was not involved at all, was not advised about the child pornography, I find that suspicious.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, there have been a lot of different speculations. I also find it very suspicious that this search warrant is going into good detail why it was evacuated and specifying that FBI had nothing to do with the evacuation. Original reports were that FBI ordered the evacuation. Now, this search warrant says no. And I'm very curious, why would somebody put a detail like that in the search warrant, which has nothing to do with searching the premises? I mean, let's face it, search warrant is a legal document.
I can tell you that Aura actually from the beginning had advised that it was their decision to evacuate. So the other journalists that were running with the fact that the FBI stormed the building, the site, was wrong. It was Aura had earlier acknowledged that they had called the FBI and advised the FBI that they wished to evacuate.
Okay, that's a fair point.
So why that's important, I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's important or not, but the fact that there is a confusion is a little unsettling. I mean, let's face it, there are thousands of child pornography arrests, and usually, from what I understand, none of them get violent. You have a pervert that collects those things, which are highly illegal in this country. He gets raided, his electronic devices get confiscated, he gets hooked up and taken to a holding facility. Why we need to evacuate 4 or 5 square miles to do that? I'm not satisfied. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, I don't think it's really the story. Okay, let's say that they were using equipment at the observatory. Now, to do a criminal forensic investigation on all the computer equipment there would be quite a difficult task to undertake. And I expect the duration of the evacuation. However, the problem is people were wandering around and there was no FBI agents conducting any investigations during that time. So you've got from the 6th of September, they evacuate. Apparently, according to Sheriff Benny House, there was a Black Hawk helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
It really doesn't appear to have anything to do with a child pornography case that was using peer-to-peer software.
Right.
I mean, those...
We are losing connection with you, buddy. Hello? Hello, David?
You there?
David, I'm kind of losing connection with you. Can you repeat can you go back about 10, 15 seconds and repeat that again?
Yeah, if you can edit all this out somehow. Okay, what I'm saying is that you've got child pornography case, you've got the FBI turning up on the 6th of September, the people are evacuated. According to Sheriff Benny House, the FBI also had Black Hawk outside. That doesn't really add up to a child pornography case and investigation. It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. Now, you prepared some slides, so do you want to go through them?
Yeah, I think we...
Okay, let me put up the first
that time frame. Yeah,
no, go ahead.
Okay, the first one, if you've got that on the screen.
Yes, I do.
You see on the closure and the evacuation with the FBI involvement. Then on the 7th, it started getting news coverage, a press release from Aura. So we don't know what actually really happened throughout the day of the 6th and the night of the 6th. But on the 7th, we started getting media reports. We had television crew attend the site, and it was basically empty when they got there on the 7th. So from the 7th, the site had been evacuated. It was like a ghost town. Then so I had a ghost town on the 7th. On the 8th, I started seeing some YouTube people posting reports about it.
Right.
And, you know, they were just sort of commenting on it. No one really knew what was going on. Then if you look on the 9th, I saw a clip from someone, they were talking about, well, you know, and so they've evacuated because this solar flare is coming.
Right.
But that's obviously not true. If it was, then on the 11th...
Let's go. Can we go back to the solar flare again? You cut out just a little bit. Give me some ideas why you don't think that's plausible, solar flare.
I don't believe it's the solar flare because today it's been and gone, and it didn't have an impact. It didn't take out network electricity grids. It didn't do anything. So that massive solar flare, I just don't believe it. We may have had a solar flare, but it wasn't a particularly aggressive or massive one, from what I can see.
Okay, that's fair enough. Fair enough.
I believe that's why they evacuated, because that massive flare didn't amount to anything.
Okay. You want to keep going, or do you want me to put a new slide in? Well, David?
Yeah, you there?
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, I got you. I got you back. So just keep
Anyway,
going and tell me when to put the next slide.
Yeah. Sorry?
Let me know when to put the next slide.
Yeah, well, okay. So the massive solar flare, you agree it's not really likely?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know enough about it, but your reasoning is solid. I mean, we have no effects, nothing on our electrical grid. I mean, there's nothing that disturbed our normal atmosphere or normal the weather. So, I mean,
now, if we move on to the 11th, there was an allegation Chinese spying. So there was Chinese spying on White Sands, on the military, what is it, the missile
grounds. Yeah.
Now, that one has seemed to have gained the most traction. That's the one that seems to be the most popular explanation for what happened here.
Mm-hmm.
It was announced as a Reddit post on the 11th. It was picked up by a couple of YouTubers on the 11th and the 12th. There was one YouTuber guy called X-Army John, or John X-Army. He
Johnny X-Army, I think that's how it goes by.
Yeah, John. Yeah, he brought it to everyone's attention. It's the one that seems to be most likely. Linda Moulton Howe, who is a very well-known UFO journalist, she claims that a whistleblower, or more than one whistleblower, has advised her that was a spying on White Sands. So as far as she's concerned, so we have, I'd have to say that's probably the leading explanation. No one seems to be buying the child porn cover story. I think most people are rejecting that one. Yes. But the Chinese spying appears to be the most likely. Then we have, following day, someone had brought out some SDO images about 2 solar eclipses. Did you see that?
Yes, I've seen those. I've done a live stream on that and run some of the video evidence I found on YouTube. Again, I'm not an expert in it, so maybe you can tell me if that's plausible.
Okay, yeah. Well, I investigated that myself as well. I believe it amounts to nothing, and I think it's been logically and satisfactorily explained. What happens is the satellite sun is traveling faster than the moon. So it passes with the moon between the sun and the satellite, but then as the satellite is going faster than the moon, it catches up to the moon again and creates a second eclipse.
Okay.
That it was simply a case of the speed of the satellite rotating around, orbiting the sun on occasions. Now, there was someone else who got that story from a scientist, I think it was probably working for the SDO, and they had that was, to me, sounds like a plausible, reasonable explanation for what those.
Okay.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening.
Yeah, so I think that, I don't know, I didn't actually see your article about, but I'm convinced, I believe the real story on that one. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I don't think it's anything to be too concerned about.
Okay.
Now, the next one we move on to was, there was someone reporting a huge UFO craft, hundreds of smaller craft. Did you see that one as well?
No, that one I have missed. So let's talk about that.
Yep. There's a woman, her first name was Maria, I can't remember her last name, Colburn Hill or something like that. She had some photos that she got, and you can see that there's on Earth a huge circular.
Oh, I've seen that one. Yes, yes. I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yep. And so we've seen that one, and then you also had an image where there was a whole lot of the little white things that look a little bit like spacecrafts.
Right.
A whole lot of them. Now, I don't know where to stand on that one. I mean, it could be anything. Other people have said those white marks could be anything. It could be, it doesn't mean it's craft. But if that's true, I mean, that's possibly an explanation for why they evacuated.
But you have to admit that's a possibility of something like that, unless it's some earthbound experimental aircraft. I'm not dismissing aliens from outer space at all, but I'm just thinking about the probabilities.
I mean, that's a very interesting one that I don't know how to actually deal with that one. I don't know whether it's, or it really is spacecraft. I mean, there's all kinds of talks about that one. It may very well be true. There might be thousands of UFOs out there, or hundreds of UFOs out there.
Oh, UFOs do exist, and the reason, and I was the biggest skeptic of them all up until about 30 years ago, where I actually saw one, and I can't explain what I have seen, and I'm not, I'm not one of those true believers in the aliens and UFOs, but I have seen something which was near LAX, very high in the air. Were some objects up there that weren't planes, that weren't weather balloons, and I couldn't explain what I have seen. And the way they moved, they didn't move like any earthly anything that I could say that were from in my thought would be man-made. But so that I have seen that with my own eyes. I don't know whether there were aliens or whether it was a figment of my imagination, what it was, but I have seen that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is possible that those craft are out there and that it was possibly the reason, but I'm not sure. I mean, it might be the reason why. I mean, we may find out later.
Okay. Um,
Now, we go to the next day on the 13th. We
okay.
had we had a YouTuber. You've probably seen, everyone's seen this one, I think. A guy and his son are wandering around the observatory. They've gone up, they're filming it, they're
Yes.
walking around the site. Site's empty, no one to be found.
I think he found a
It's the
tape of
guy
some kind. I'll let you say that.
sorry, the
Remember, he found what was it, X-Files tape?
yeah. He found the X-Files DVD on top of a bin inside the building, which was interesting. And he also was looked up and he saw someone had a drone, was filming drone footage, and that was interesting because that drone footage was on another.
Yes.
The two people were, were that they were speculating, well, are they FBI agents? Who are they? They were just
Right.
two YouTubers. A very interesting thing that he did make a comment about
Yes.
was he could smell something. There was an odor in the air that he wasn't sure about.
Yes.
He even joked that, he hoped this doesn't kill him. He even joked about it. So
Yes.
I found that interesting because I have not yet been able to explain what that odor was, whether it's normal, whether somewhere I want to try and find out more on. Another thing that happened on the 13th was the press release about the hiker.
Right.
Now, I think you know that this is big on my list. This is something I don't understand. So we have a press release where a hiker was found unresponsive at 10 o'clock on the Wednesday night, and then came and he was declared dead. Now, there's been no further press releases. There's been no further
Nothing.
information released. Nothing. I've hit brick wall after brick wall trying to determine who this person was. What was the cause of
Well,
death? Nothing.
let me tell you, I have contacted the New Mexico State Police, and the first time I contacted them, I spoke to one of the spokespeople out there, Lieutenant, and I don't have her name straight at my, but it doesn't matter. I don't want to spend time looking for it. And she said that to email her and she'll get back to me. She never got back to me, and I subsequently called, and she never picked up her cell phone again, and I never heard from her again. I had a little better luck with FBI, but they never talked about the. But it's interesting that the New Mexico State Police decided to just not say anything about that hiker. Correct me if I'm wrong. We don't know his identity, and nobody's releasing his autopsy. Am I correct on that?
You're correct. The only one thing we do know is it was reported he was a Belgian tourist.
Right.
Now, I could understand that they may not release his name until the family has been contacted, but it's been over a month now and we still have heard nothing,
No.
and no one will respond. Now, back in 2015, there was a French couple who died in the same area. Information was readily available about those people. Their names were released. The events that took place was released, and fairly quickly, within like 1 week. Within 1 week, we knew who. The story was that they'd actually given their water to their child to sustain their child. So they gave their lives. But that information was released.
Hold on 1 second. Go ahead.
So, but this one is dead quiet. No one wants to talk about it.
Yes.
I emailed 3 journalists. I tried to get in contact with the Park Service that released the press release. No one wants to talk about it.
That's very strange. And again, logically, people died. You have a Belgian tourist, two French tourists died there. Then you have another foreign national dies up there 3 years later, with really no explanation at all.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to this guy. I don't know,
Well, from what I understand, it's a pretty hot desert environment.
It's suspicious that we're not told anything.
No.
Now, I don't really believe this sunspot case is closed until we can get some satisfactory response on the hiker to actually confirm what took place at Sunspot.
Right.
Most likely, there's probably no relation at all. It's probably just coincidental. But the very is that suspicion that there is a linkage between that hike and place. I mean, what's your view on that?
I cannot build a plausible scenario between the death of people about 30, 40 miles away and the closure observatory. To close an observatory, evacuate people means immediate danger from something or someone. Now, something I have to dismiss because after they evacuated, there was no perimeter set up, so people could wander in freely. Someone, the only way you could have lax security after evacuation if the law enforcement knew that someone is hunting someone specific rather than indiscriminate. So I am at loss to. I cannot even build a scenario when people die 30, 40 miles away and then the observatory is being closed. I just don't have enough information to even form a speculation. What do you think?
One idea about this. The one thing is that the hiker was found on the 12th at 10 o'clock at night and believed to be dead. He was unresponsive apparently, but
right.
Who knows what the truth on that is. Now, there's been no. How do we even know? Die a week before. There's been no autopsy. There's been no indication of time of death. I mean, was he there for a whole week?
Right.
I mean, is the story true that he was only found on the 12th? I mean, was it looking for him? I mean, I don't. It's. Why should I believe the 12th is correct when they're refusing to release any other details?
Absolutely.
If I could see an autopsy report that, speculates, okay, time of death was the 12th of September, somewhere between 8 and 10 p.m., then, okay, I'm happy. Then that's not it. But until that, I'm not ruling out that death didn't occur prior to the closure.
The only reason we even bringing this up and trying to tie it into the Sunspot Observatory is because the authorities are cagey.
Yeah. I mean, if they just released his name and treated it like just disassociated it from the sunspot. But because they've been so cagey, refused to answer, journalists are not getting back to me, No one's talking about it. Parks people don't want to talk about it. Yeah, it makes me suspicious, and I'm not willing to give it up just yet.
Can you build a scenario at all? I don't care how speculative.
Understanding of what happened.
Yeah.
Until I get a better idea of what happened to the hiker, I'm not willing to rule it out. Other people have. Most people, and I think I can understand that. I mean, whistleblowers are apparently saying that's the answer. But why is the hiker so mysterious?
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll get back to that in a minute. Okay, then on the 14th, we had that search warrant.
Right.
On the 14th, the search warrant was released to the public, and that started hitting the news broadcasts and all of that. Then not much happened, went a bit quiet. On the 17th, they returned. Returned back to work on the 17th. The interesting thing about this is there's been no arrest for child pornography.
Hello?
Andre?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, now I can hear you. Say that again.
Okay. Yeah, so on the 14th, we had the search warrant released to the public. News reporters were starting to present that information, that's what the whole story was about. Then nothing much went on. The 17th, they went back to work. Right. Now, my question is they've gone back to work, yet there's been no arrest. The janitor was not arrested.
Yes, very true.
And that means he would surely be free. He was making on the 6th.
I'm losing you again.
Yeah, I say they returned on the 17th, but there's been no arrest of the janitor. Correct. So I presume he's not in custody, which would mean he'd be freely available to carry out the threats he was making on the 6th. That's Why do they conclude it's safe to return now?
Yes, true. Very true.
There's been no arrest, so that means he's not in custody. So the reason for the evacuation, but yet it's okay to come back now on the 17th and carry on like nothing ever happened.
That's very true. Very true.
I mean, if I had threats made against me, I probably wouldn't be too comfortable about that unless he was in custody and
of course not.
There's been no arrest. Now the other thing is that on that same day, there's a YouTuber guy, courageous individual. He went up to the observatory. He had a phone in his pocket.
What did he have in his pocket?
A phone, secretly recording.
Okay,
he had a phone in his top pocket. The camera lens was just sticking out over the top, and he was just pretty much secretly recording. He had another phone in his hand, and he wandered around and he talked to nearly everybody he could find. And it was really interesting in the fact that he went inside the offices. I think he found an IT guy, one of the guys in IT. And he wandered around with this guy for a while. He went into someone's offices. There was a particular person that used to work there before who had abandoned his office back maybe a couple of times a year, and they went into this guy's office. They went through this guy's material, and he's chatting with the people, and no one knows anything. The IT guy didn't let on about Now, this was the IT guy, or one of the IT guys there, which is not many people there. He didn't bring up the child pornography. He didn't make any mention of it. Idea. No one has any idea what happened.
Okay.
No one knows why they were evacuated.
Well, at least they're saying they don't know. I mean, they maybe truly don't know.
Maybe they truly don't know. But yeah, he wandered around for quite a while. He went to the library. Was it the visitor room? He went inside.
Interesting. Can you send me a link
People.
to that video when you get a
If
chance?
you do, I don't have it handy. I'll send you a link to it. Yeah, it was quite a lot. It's just
Right.
clanging around. But no one would really know. And and then they've all returned, and there's explanation for why they were closed that long.
Okay. All right. Are we done with this slide, or you still have things to say, David?
About the pornography. So we'll go to the next slide.
All right. Let's see here.
Yeah, go to the next slide if we can.
Okay, I'm on slide 2.
Okay, you're on slide 2. So that's pretty much July 2018. They realised the only one was the janitor. Then they evacuated because he became quite agitated and making threats.
Right.
So that was the official explanation that we got from them. So if you want to go to the next one.
Okay, just a sec. Okay, I'm on slide 3.
Okay, these are the problems I had with the official explanation. And as I said, we had the sheriff wasn't involved at all, wasn't advised of child porn, which pretty much seems... Why did it take 10 days to investigate? Residents and the post office unable to return until the 17th. If they were just investigating child pornography, surely the next day.
True.
I mean, why did... The thing is that child pornography doesn't explain the strange odor that YouTube guy found when he was wandering around the site.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't specify what kind of
So
smell
I
it
don't...
was, but
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons I don't believe this is the real story. I think this is what they're telling us.
Right.
Probably just believe it and move on. But some of us don't really believe this is really what happened.
I really don't think anybody believes that. It's just there is no alternative explanation that explains everything. So, I mean, what are we to do? I mean, we can't say, well, it wasn't that, but it was this.
Yeah, I think we're in a situation where we can't really... Do you want to go to the next slide, Andre?
Sure. Just give me one sec here. Let's see here. Oh, I'm on slide 4.
Yep, slide 4. Okay, these were the main things.
Okay.
The only evidence we have from that about that is alleged whistleblowers. Could be disinformation, it could be anything. I mean, but all we have to go on is whistleblowers. You had a guy on Reddit, you had apparently 2 whistleblowers with Linda Moulton Howe. So, I mean, it could very well be it. But we only have whistleblowers to go on.
Yeah.
We don't really have any evidence to support it. The solar flare, the coronal mass ejection, time's already passed, nothing much happened. Spacecraft, the images weren't particularly clear. We don't know if they really are alien craft or not. Now, you with me?
No, just say that again. You cut out.
The last one, the ET seen at the observatory.
Right.
Okay, I saw one YouTube clip where apparently there was a technician at the site who claimed to have seen an extraterrestrial consuming or taking liquid mercury.
Okay.
One YouTube clip. And apparently this woman had claimed to see an ET taking or consuming liquid mercury, and she herself did not care because she was flying to Cuba the very next day. She was going to Cuba to get cancer treatment.
Okay. She should be dead.
Only because she's not around now. She went off to Cuba. There's no one else that can testify that they saw an ET. Now, Linda, famous for her cattle mutilation investigations, you know, from years ago, and her continual alien investigations. I emailed her, and she completely discounted it.
Really?
Really. Her answer to me on that question: is there no one coming? Why is there not no whistleblowers coming forward? Why hasn't this woman come forward to a major news agency or to herself or to anyone? Why has she not come forward? She had, and completely dismissed it as not a plausible, not a possible explanation. Now, one thing about that, Andre, I have a question for you.
Sure.
What is Cuba known for in cancer research?
One more time. What is what?
What is known for in cancer research?
Can't tell you. What is it for?
Andre?
Hello? Go ahead. Tell me what's it for.
What?
Hello?
Hello? You don't know?
I don't know.
Okay. Neither did I until I'd heard this. This to Cuba for cancer treatment, and she hoped that their treatment would be successful because Cuba is the world leading, they have a vaccine for lung cancer.
Really? Is that for reals or is it just communist propaganda?
That is for real. I researched Cuba and lung cancer and discovered that they are world leading in lung cancer vaccines.
Really? Okay. How interesting.
That gave me some interest in this report, because you have a woman, she's saying, look, I saw a 7-foot ET consuming or taking liquid mercury, and we had a gag order, but I don't really care because I'm going to Cuba to get treatment for cancer.
Okay.
And she lives in the States, right? She lives in the United States, but she's decided to go to Cuba to get treatment. And she mentioned it. She said, I'm going off to Cuba and I hope that it will help me because of all of my years dealing with these chemicals, I'm left with cancer. So quite likely she's inhaled fumes and got lung cancer. She mentioned going, and she said, look, I'm going to Cuba tomorrow for cancer treatment. So I don't care about their gag order. very fact that she happened to mention Cuba and that she was going to Cuba. If this was a hoax of some, if it was a hoax and it wasn't real, why would someone bring up Cuba? Because I wouldn't.
That's, yeah, I mean, I really, I can't even comment on that because I can't tie this into anything. That's a problem with the whole. That's a problem with the whole story. You have different bits and pieces and explanations, and they cannot be tied into anything.
Well, I mean, you know, you've got. I have one YouTube video clip where they claim working at the sunspot on the day, and she saw a 7-foot ET, and that she didn't care about any gag orders. She was leaving for Cuba for cancer treatment. Now, that's everyone else has discounted it. I'm not prepared to discount it just yet because I don't necessarily think. I mean, it could be a hoax, but I'm not prepared to just rule it straight out just because.
Well, I think when you have a report like that, I'm going to put my my devil's advocate hat on, but I'm not going to be rude about this. She saw a humanoid figure that was 7 feet tall, that was drinking something that she thought was mercury. My question to her would be, how did you know it was mercury? And
because
go ahead.
She knows it's mercury because the observatory, the telescope uses liquid mercury for a balancing.
Mm-hmm.
A huge amount of liquid mercury that they use. If you do some research, you'll find that it's liquid mercury that they use for, I don't know, counterbalancing or weighting, whatever it is, the telescope. Now, she also claims that she tried to communicate with this ET, but the ET just ignored her as if she didn't exist.
Well, let me go back to that. Before we pronounce this humanoid figure 7 feet tall is ET, what indicated to her, what evidence did she have that humanoid was not earthbound?
Well, she claimed that it had tentacles, and that's how it was consuming the liquid mercury.
Okay.
So
it wasn't that creature did not register in her like anything that she has ever associated with being existing on Earth. So her assumption was at that point that it was extraterrestrial. I mean, I'm not gonna discount this, but again, I'm gonna go back to what I said before: the probability.
She didn't elaborate on that. She just said it had tentacles, and it was 7.
So it wasn't a humanoid form; it was some other form.
Alien.
No, so she didn't say it was a humanoid form; it was some other form, correct?
It had tentacles, and it was consuming liquid mercury. Okay. She didn't go beyond that. She didn't say. She didn't say what kind of extraterrestrial it was. Only it was 7 feet tall and had tentacles and was consuming liquid mercury. And did not respond to any of her verbal instructions, commands.
I am going to take that, since I wasn't there, I'm going to take that at face value. But before I pronounce that as fact, I would need some more information, some corroboration, some more explanation. I'm not suggesting it's not true, But when you come up with something that's so improbable, even though
Absolutely.
I think we need a little bit more information before we stand
I,
behind that idea.
yeah, I can't claim that's the answer. I just find it interesting that it's largely been ignored. I guess it's so out there that they're just choosing to ignore it.
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%.
So I mean, and then my theory is that they evacuated the building so that they could perhaps use chemical weapons to kill the ET that was at the observatory, and that was where we got the chemical smell from, and that was why
Okay.
the smells to go away, or for the chemicals to go away, and that probably happened on the 6th when there was no one around. A Black Hawk helicopter.
That I like that explanation. Again, I'm keep on having my skeptic's head on. It doesn't mean I disbelieve it,
That's
but
that's I
that would
can't
explain
prove
it.
it.
That theory explains a lot of different things.
Now, if I was able to tie in that the hiker had been mauled by an extraterrestrial, or it had, foreign DNA on it that was not of this earth, or that, then what have you got then? You've got some compound in New Mexico had come across the hiker, killed the hiker, had gone to the telescope, was playing with the antennas outside, trying to get a UFO to come pick them up.
Okay, I mean, again, what this is a theory that you came up with, and I really appreciate this. That would explain all the known facts. It's just the thing that confuses me and everybody else who is not really a believer in UFOs is the probability of something like that happening. But I have to say, this theory does tie everything we know about Sunspot Observatory closing together. I have to admit that.
That's, yeah, I don't have any proof of this. I don't know how, I haven't yet been able to work out any proof of this in the hiker, and I'd be more interested in trying to find this woman that went to Cuba, but I don't know that there's many people that actually know, because I don't know that any of the other workers or any of the other people that were evacuated would have even seen this ET. I mean, I think it's quite possible that she was the only one to see the ET. Now, if she didn't mention it to anyone, apparently she called her supervisor, and her supervisor that was when they decided to evacuate.
Wow.
So no one else, if she didn't tell anyone, there's only two people that would have known, her and her supervisor and the FBI.
Wow.
Because no one else, because where the liquid mercury is, I believe it's like, must be at the face of the telescope, which means it's away from where most people would have seen. So there's nothing to suggest that everyone should have seen this. So the fact that there's only probably two people that are aware of it, and one person has spoken up and got it.
It is. It is interesting. Okay, listen, we have about 8-10 minutes to go, so let's move on.
Okay, go to the next slide.
Okay, it's up.
Okay, so we've got three other theories that I've sort of come up with that people aren't really talking about. Okay, the sun was found to be not working.
Okay, I have caught that one.
So you can see that someone observed that the sun had gone black and panicked, perhaps tried to inform the people by the post office, send some details out through the post office.
you to accept that theory, you have to make a lot of suppositions. I'm not against that theory,
Good.
but you have to make a supposition that that Newtonian physics and subatomic physics does not exist the same way we're told it exists. That the world is works in a different way,
Yeah, it's extremely interesting, isn't it?
or
There's
that
a
we live in a computer simulation. That's
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of people that believe we live in an electrical universe,
mhm.
and that the sun itself is electrical.
Right.
So the sun itself is electrical, and apparently it translates power from the galaxy or from the universe, and relays it.
Uh, Again, this
Nuclear fusion.
I'm not a scientist, and I really cannot comment on validity of that theory. But to explain it this way, you really have to discount the accepted physics and accepted
You
science.
do, you do. So I mean, if that one is true, you really do. And I mean, the things that are wrong. There's a Dr. Claudia Albers. She does a lot of research into this, and she believes that and there's other accusations. I don't know if you've heard about the Sun simulator.
Right? Yes. You cut out
In
again,
the sky.
David. You cut
In
out again. Can you repeat that?
Okay. Apparently, we have a sun simulator in the sky that pretends to be our sun.
Yeah.
It's placed between the real sun and Earth because the sun itself does from time to time turn off. And that the sun is itself at its end of life.
I find that theory actually fascinating. I have come across many variations, and the one that I love is that we are a laboratory experiment, and all the stars and all the sun is just a simulation around our cage, if you will.
Yeah.
And we're just being studied by super beings who create certain stimuli for us, and they turn on and turn off the sun by making it look like it rotates, and they create different phenomena, and they have
Yeah.
their super being notebooks, and they make notations. Um, I love that. I mean, that is a very. I personally, I don't see any evidence of that, but it doesn't mean anything. It is.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I agree with you. I find the simulation explanation for us is an interesting one. Elon Musk is quite in
Right.
favour of it.
Yeah.
I think it's, yeah, I mean, it could be. Anyway, we'll move on, shall we? The next one, fraud, theft of expensive equipment.
Uh huh.
This one came up by that YouTube guy Defango, who was talking with some people there, and the IT guy made reference to the fact that his view was it could be fraud or it could be theft of expensive telescope equipment.
Okay.
But it doesn't explain why evacuate everyone again.
No, it does
Why?
not. The theory that actually explains everything to me is really improbable. That there was an extraterrestrial or some being that needed to be contained and presented immediate danger to that area. So, to me, out of everything that we discussed, that's the only explanation that ties everything together. I don't know if you agree
I
with me.
I got one last one.
Go ahead.
Secret
that Skype connection is not that
Yeah,
good at all. Can you repeat that again?
yeah. The last one we've got is a secret ET visiting Holloman's airport airbase.
I have not come across that one. Can you elaborate?
Okay. In the 1950s, it was reported alien craft landed at Holloman's airbase and President Eisenhower, whatever his name is.
Right.
And that was in apparently 1950s. Footage of the alien spacecraft, it's fairly well known amongst the UFO community.
Okay.
Possible that the ETs were planning again to come and visit at Holloman's Air Base. So what was decided was to evacuate Sun Spot so they could not see the ET craft landing at Holloman's.
That is another theory. I have not heard that one, but I have to say I'm not part of the UFO community at all. I'm just occasional visitor. I find what's interesting is that again ties all the known facts together.
It does. You evacuate all of the people in the area so that you're not able to actually witness the craft landing. The craft lands. Perhaps they stay for a week. They have ongoing discussions with military personnel and the president or whatever else. And then they leave again, and then everyone can return.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is that there is, in the 1950s, a report of a previous extraterrestrial craft landing at Holloman's Air Base and having meetings with the president and having meetings with high-ranking military officials. Now, this one, it's come from I've not seen any YouTube clips making reference to this. I've not found anyone else raising this one as a possibility. This is my thinking. I haven't done much research into it yet. I mean, if we could have high-ranking military officials all had a meeting at Holloman's Air Base during that time frame, it might add some more credibility to it.
Right.
I mean, there's a few things that there might be some sort of circumstantial evidence that lends that particular extra credibility. I mean, what's your view?
This is, like I say, it's beyond my pay grade. Again, it ties the facts together. It's just highly improbable. And what I stumble always when I discuss these theories, and I think about these theories, about the barrier of improbabilities. But you know what? If it's old Sir Conan Doyle Sherlock Holmes story, where all the probable is illuminated, improbable is, I can't remember exactly how he said. Could you excuse me? Oh, my phone keeps on ringing, but I mean, that is in many ways, an excellent explanation. What do you think?
I think it's plausible. I think it's plausible. Everyone seems to have gone with the Chinese spying on white sands. That seems to be what everyone's gone with. No one's really accepting the child pornography as an explanation. The only two that I kind of believe in is the ET seen by the female technician, and perhaps an ET craft. I'm going to continue to pursue these two cases.
I
And I'm going to try and validate and find out whether there was any, high-ranking officials, visiting Holloman's around that time frame.
That's an excellent thought. You know what? I think we should continue our discussion on this one.
So yeah, so leave it with me. I'll do some more research on that and perhaps get back to you. I don't know about the video conferencing. I don't know how to make it work better. I can try and find out if there's some things I can do at my end. I don't know exactly what's
maybe
wrong.
get, I don't know, maybe get an antenna. I don't know if that would help.
I mean,
But
I might try using 4G instead of my normal. I mean, the ridiculous thing is I'm on fiber. I'm on like fiber optics. I've got fiber optics above the front door coming into the unit.
or we can try
The
using your
conference.
cell
So.
phone next time. Maybe it'll be better connection there.
Yeah, I might try that with you at some point. So I do apologise for the
No,
poor quality.
there are no apologies necessary. It is real life. We're not corporate controlled media. We're true blue
Yeah.
citizen journalists. Again, neither one of us get paid for this.
So I think that's probably what I'll try and do. We'll see if I can get some more traction on those two avenues. But I think for anyone that's been watching, I hope that we've illuminated some of the things that they've been seeing and some of the things they've been thinking about. I hope that they can perhaps investigate on their own. If they do and they're interested and they find out some information, perhaps they can get back to you, Andre, and contact you and let you know what they've found.
That would be great. All right, David. I do need to go. My phone keeps on ringing, and people keep on wanting do
I'll
it
be
again.
in touch.
Okay, listen. You have a wonderful day, and thank you very much for taking your time.
Okay.
Bye bye. All right, folks. That was David Green, and independent investigator from Australia. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. I'm pretty sure we're going to have more of this type of conversations. I'm on my website, wildnews.us. Want to let you know that if you want to get in touch with me, just and let me go like this. If you want to get in touch with me, just go to contact info tab, and my phone number and my email address are here. So you are welcome to get in touch with me. If you don't know me, probably easier to email me first. But if I'm not busy, I do answer my phone. Thank you very much for joining me and joining David. And David, again, thank you very much for taking your time and appearing on my live stream on my channel. God bless you, folks. God bless you, folks. I got to go back to work. Bye bye.